Dietitian and licensed nutritionist, and I'm so happy to be here today to present some nutrition content for the Lending Hearts program. Really excited. February is a lot of things, but it's also Heart Healthy Month. And even though we are on our way out of February, it's really worth talking about it. So today I've made, curated some really heart healthy recipes for you to try. I hope you like them as much as I do. They're all very simple. Don't really require you, I might have one ingredient here that you might not have on hand. But for the most part, everything here you would have in your pantry. So, it wouldn't be difficult to get them either. You wouldn't need to go to a specialty store or anything like that. So the first up we have is a simple baked salmon in the oven and just seasoned real nicely with some fresh citrus and fresh herbs. I do encourage you always to use fresh just to get the most flavor out of them if that's available to you. We also have a chickpea bake, which is really nice, and it complements the fish really well because we have our animal protein and we have a plant-based protein. It really goes nicely together. And I like to serve at home. I like to serve some of those starchier sides when I'm having something lighter like fish, so people aren't finishing dinner and looking for something else to eat at that time. So sometimes having a little bit heavier of a starch side when you're having something lighter like fish especially, it's a nice addition and it helps round out the plate and keep you full. The other thing that we're making, and this is the one that you might not have on hand, is the fennel and spinach salad. It's a warm salad. It has some citrus on it. So we're talking about some of the fruits that are available to us over the winter time, certainly the citrus family. So we have a lot of oranges today, and of course, Mediterranean inspired, lots of olive oil, lots of lemon, lots of herbs. And we have some nuts in there as well. So when we think about today, we have some really good complex carbohydrates. We have proteins that are lean and that contain the omega-3 fatty acids and good and healthy fats. And complex carbohydrates, the proteins, and the good fats. So all of the things that we need to keep us fueled and feeling our best. So let's get started. Pretty ambitious. So, we have our salmon, we have the chickpea bake, we have the arugula and fennel, and then we also have a Brussels sprouts, shaved Brussels sprouts side dish too that I thought would be nice to have today as well. And I'm going to show you how to make those and use a different piece of equipment just in case you aren't using one already and you're a little intimidated. I always like to try to show something else that maybe you might be intimidated to try at home. Sometimes if you see it demonstrated, it makes it a little bit easier for you. So let's get started. We have to get some things in the oven. The first thing we're going to do is our salmon. And like I said, it's going to be very simple. I'm going to adjust my camera so you can see what we're doing here. Just move some things. And I'll show you everything that I have prepped for the salmon. So let me just move my cutting board aside so you could see everything here. We have, I have 3 salmon fillets. They are wild. I really think it's worth getting the wild. It's a pure product. It hasn't, sometimes when we buy farm raised or we buy something that's modified, that could cause inflammation in our body. And, our body's like, oh, what is that? And that's when it causes inflammation when we have things that we don't know. So it's wild is the best. So if that's available to you, also canned salmon, that's comes in some wild varieties as well. So I encourage you to try that. So we have salmon, I have some kosher salt, olive oil, garlic, parsley, lemon, and pepper. So let's get started on there. What I'd like to do first is I'm going to mix up all of our herbs together. And I'm also going to, if this isn't the first time you join me, you probably are aware that I'm going to say the first thing that we need to do is pat down our salmon to make sure that we get all of the moisture out of it. When you don't have all the moisture out of your fish before you cook it, it could get soggy and it actually steams as it cooks. So what we want to do is make sure we get all the water out of it, and we just do that by patting it dry with paper towels. It's always best to not rush the defrost process. So, make sure you take things out the day before. And if you are buying fish vacuum packed, it's very important that you take it out of that plastic seal, because when it's packed like that, because it does have a gas in there that's harmful, and it's not recommended to defrost under refrigeration inside that bag. So you want to cut it out of that bag, set it on a plate. If it is frozen, if it's fresh, that's wonderful. Mine was frozen, but I made sure that I took it out last night, so it should be ready to go for us, but it might have some moisture in there. So I'm just going to grab a paper towel so we could get that started. And I'm going to just pat it dry on my plate. Let me just show you. I see some liquid coming off of there already. I'm just going to, I'm going to leave the skin on too. And you can see I still have a little bit more in here. So see how much liquid I got out of that. Another towel. You can remove the skin. I just like the skin, and just think it makes for a nice product. And then some people in my family eat the skin too, especially when it's crispy. To move that aside and rinse off my hands. And then we'll move on to our little, oh, I guess I could just leave that here, and we'll just put everything together. So what we're going to do is, let's see, our salmon. We're going to put some olive oil and add our parsley. And we're also going to add some lemon juice. Always use fresh garlic on there. And I like to use a whole lemon. And I like to use these types of juicers. And I actually put the lemon in both ways to make sure I get all the juice out of the lemon. I still see it might still get some out of there. So this is really nice. You know, the salmon, they're rich in the omega-3 fats, anti-inflammatory support. It's a good high quality protein, you know, tissue repair, immune strength, and it's easy to digest. You know, some people are a little averse to the flavor, but if you give it a try and if you use the right preparation, I think you'll really like it. Let me just set this aside. We're also going to add some garlic to this as well. Again, I always recommend using fresh. It just makes for, you know, just adds a lot of flavor. That's good. You could also add fresh red onion to this. That's also nice. And if you like it crispier, which I also do, sometimes this is nice to, you know, just give it a few minutes in a skillet right before you put it in the oven to get it done on both sides, and then just finish it off in there. But today for class, this really works well because it could be an oven. I think oven baked salmon is just delicious. I think if you remember, we also do a whole baked salmon in the oven. That comes out really nicely. So anyhow, we're just going to give us a little stir. A little bit of kosher salt. And a little fresh cracked pepper. Again, I chose parsley. You could also put dill on here, whatever you like. Okay, so we have our nice little sauce there. We're going to just spoon some over here. And you want to be careful that you don't touch the salmon with your spoon because we could use this again. And we're just going to stick that in the oven for about 12 minutes. Usually the guideline for fish is about 1 inch is 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and stick this in the oven. I have it at 400 degrees. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is our chickpea bake. So let me just move our extra things here and get our chickpea. So before class, I drained the chickpeas, but I want to tell you about them a little bit. So chickpeas are wonderful. We could also use this making dried chickpeas too. I do that a lot of times. And what you would do is excuse me, you would soak them overnight and make sure they're tender. You probably want to boil them again in the morning for probably, a good half hour. And then you could add them to the oven. Make sure you have ample cooking fluid in there and they'll be nice and tender for you. But right now, canned chickpeas are also very reasonable. And for class today, I thought that would be a nice idea. But let me just tell you about the chickpeas. And it's 1/2 cup serving, 1.5 grams of fat, no saturated fat. We know that, right? It's a plant product. And we also have 18 grams of carbohydrate and 4 grams of fiber. So we have a net carb of 14 and we have 6 grams of protein. And if we look at the fiber, it's saying 14% of the daily value. So it's an okay source. It's not a good source. We know good sources are 20% or more of the daily value. But with fiber, it's really hard to get 25 grams throughout the whole day. So this is definitely going to chip away at that fiber number. So really, for every half cup, you're getting 4 grams. Men need 35 grams per day, and most adult women need around 25. After the age of 70, that comes down slightly from 16 to 20. But in general, it's that 25 to 35 number that we're searching for. And, fiber is so good for our immune health, and it's also good, for gut health in general, and also keeping us happy. We know that those serotonin receptors, 90% of them are found in our gut. And when we have fiber feeding that good bacteria, it really keeps our mood elevated. So fiber is just a wonder. And we know recently in recent studies, they have found that by increasing your fiber by just 10 grams per day can help you decrease your risk of colorectal cancer. So really doing a lot more studies on the gut microbiome, which is very promising. So, and how do we do that? Wonderful ways through delicious eating. So let's get on to this chickpea bake. And before class, I took the liberty of sauteing our onions because it's probably the most important step of this recipe because they just give so much flavor and it really makes the difference. So we're just going to mix this up right in the bowl that we're using. And I'm going to spray it first with a little avocado oil just to make cleanup a little bit easier for us. And we're going to add, let's show you here. I have my chickpeas. I have 3 cans of chickpeas. And I rinsed them and drained them. And let me tell you, that is another very critical step of this as well, because when you don't rinse them, you have a lot of that starch on there. And when you bake them, they're going to be very sticky and very starchy, for lack of a better word. They'll be a little bit stickier. They'll stick together. So it's really good a good idea to drain them very well and to rinse them. And then I'll show you here too. I like to put the olive oil on next as well. So let's see. We're going to add that. We're going to add, and we have some more garlic to add here too. So let's get that done. We have garlic in just about in everything that we're having today, which is wonderful, right? Because it's very, it has anti-inflammatory properties as well. So we'll just give that a little turn and get the skin off there. Again, I always recommend using fresh if that's available to you. It just elevates the flavor so much more. It's just, almost like a layering of flavors, if you will. Okay. And again, we just want to and depending on how much, this is another thing you could do too, excuse me, when you're chopping your garlic. If you have salt in your recipe, we could also do this. Let me show you. If you're using a French knife, this works really nicely. So what you do is you just put a little bit of salt on here and you take your knife and you just keep going like this. And it's nice, it gets all the flavor out of there. And you just keep pressing down until you got it all flat. See how nice that is? So that's if salt's in your recipe. It works out really nicely. There we go. This is beautiful. I always like doing these things by hand too. Just it's really satisfying. So anyhow, we're going to put our garlic in there. Comes out just like a mush. But we just want to make sure now that we get it stirred in and incorporated really well. And we also have our onions. And they're just sauteed onions. I did caramelize them just because that just adds so much flavor. And we want to make sure that we get this all mixed together nicely. So I don't know if sometimes we add chickpeas to salads, we eat hummus, but there's a lot of great side dishes. Sometimes we think of the starchy sides and we forget about the bean family, right? Sometimes when we're thinking, oh, I need to have a starch with this meal. What about potatoes, white potatoes, sweet potatoes, rice, pasta? But sometimes we forget about the lentils and the beans. They're a wonderful addition, a wonderful side dish because they do have the more fiber. They do have a low glycemic index, and it's very filling. And you don't need much either. So let's stir that together. This is really good for gut health. It helps with blood sugar too. I just mentioned the low GI index. It does help with our blood sugar, supports digestion. We're going to add, let me see what I want to do, our tomatoes. So it calls for crushed tomatoes. We're going to use my canned tomatoes because they are more of the crushed variety. And where is my can opener? Right here. So I will just be quiet for a minute so we could hear our lid pop. And you heard that, and that is telling us that they were canned very nicely, and it smells delicious. I don't know if, I would try this too, even when you're buying canned from the store. I mean, this smell is just so great. And, we know that these are good. The color is good. It doesn't look milky. It wasn't seeping. My lid wasn't rusty. And you hear that pop when you open it up. So that's how we know that it's good. And we only need 28 ounces, and this is a quart. So I'm just going to spoon some out of there. So let me just adjust my camera so you could see that. Oh, it doesn't have to be exact. See here, and we still have a little bit more to go. Okay, we're at 4 ounces, so we know we have 28. So we'll go ahead and give that a stir. Add our olive oil. And add our salt and pepper. And that was about a half teaspoon of kosher salt and just a few things of crushed pepper. And we're also going to add some parsley to it. I have about 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley. I'm going to put some in here, and then we're going to add some at the end too, just to garnish it. Very nice side dish. And we are going to cook this uncovered. So that's why I want to get this into the oven because it's going to be done at the end of class. So there we go. I'm going to put that in. And I'm going to take out our salmon because it looks delicious already. So let me just take a peek at it and pull it out and see how we're doing with that. And that needs a little bit more time. It's still a little bit fleshy. So I'm just going to keep an eye, probably another 5 minutes. It'll be good. So let me clear away. I will save our parsley. Let me add this over here. Okay. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is our fennel salad. So let's get that prep over here. And I'm going to switch out my knife to get a clean knife for you. And we are ready to go. Okay, so this is the one that I wasn't sure if maybe you have this on hand. I don't always have this on hand myself, and it is fennel. And let's show you. And fennel has that it has that licorice smell. It has that anise spice flavor. So if you smell it, it has that deep licorice flavor in there, which is really good. Now, sometimes we discard these. You could also saute them. Really delicious too. Today we're going to use the bulb. So I'm going to discard this for now for today's class. Set that aside. And I'll show you what we're going to do here. We're going to heat some olive oil and then we're going to add our sliced fennel. And you could remove anything that doesn't look right. I'm just going to give this a little trim here. And give it a quick rinse. Don't want to soak it, but we do want to remove any surface dirt on the outside. Again, it's one of those things that we're going to want to just pat it dry so it doesn't steam when we're trying to saute it. Get this other. And we're going to go ahead and slice that, but I'm also going to start heating up our oil at the same time. Oil, just a few tablespoons of oil. Now I'm just going to put that on low while we slice our fennel. Just going to slice it down like this. That's what it looks like on the inside. And when we slice, we're just going to go like this. Just to get some nice julienne strips. And I don't know if you were with us for we did a class last year in the spring. It was a really delicious fennel and shaved radishes, spring salad. That also had chickpeas in it. If you weren't there for class, please check out the website. It is on there. It is so delicious. And it is just, it's reminding me, thinking about it already with spring around the corner. Again, so you just want a nice thin strips here. Nice julienne strips. And we're just going to saute this till it gets nice and tender. And what's nice too, we have fennel. We did a greens and beans salad last year with fennel, and we roasted it with some garlic and Parmesan. And then we added the cannellini beans to it and spinach, which was really delicious. And it just gives, and it pairs nicely with spinach. When you're doing kale with greens and beans, or you're doing one of those other ones, that's already pretty strong pasting. I wouldn't recommend doing kale and the fennel, but if you're using spinach or watercress or something like that, I think fennel is going to add a lot of bite and texture and flavor. So it's going to be a really balanced, enhanced dish. So I really encourage you to try that. So let's get this in here and we'll start cooking it. And it's going to need about 4 minutes to get nice and soft. So get that in there now. Okay, we'll let that go while we get the rest of the dish going. So let's set everything over here. We have, let me just show you, I have about 12 cups of spinach, baby spinach, which has been washed and dried, ready to go. And then we also have some oranges, do 2 oranges, and I have a lemon, and I have some almonds that we're going to put on top as well. So let's do this. We're going to put our orange on top. We're going to add our spinach after that gets a little bit after the fennel gets soft. So I'm going to do our orange next, and you could go ahead and peel it. I'm going to just go like this. Oh, let me show you what I'm doing. I'm just removing the peel, but I'm just doing it like this, just to keep it simple. Get all of that orange pith off. We just don't want that in our salad. So you just want to make sure that we're not wasting our orange. We just want to get all of that off of there. So just let your, know if you could see, I'm just letting the knife guide me. You could also use a paring knife if you find that that's easier. Make sure your knife is sharp. And also last year we did a dish with oranges and black olives. It was so good. You would never think to pair those. But it was just delicious. And when you want to move this inner membrane out of there too, you don't want to bite into that. And we could leave the rest of that in there, and then we could just give it some slices there. And I'm just slicing along where those segments are. Sometimes we forget about using things like oranges or fruit, but it really is a nice addition. Side. The fennel, it's really good in supporting digestion. The C is going to provide vitamins. The citrus rather is going to provide vitamin C, which is also good for immunity. We're talking about this time of year, and the acid helped, increase our appetite. Well, that's nice too. So I'm just going to give this a stir. And again, it's not that we're going to have a lot of the fennel in there. It's just in there to just enhance the flavor. So I'm gonna cut this orange, and then we'll check on our salmon, and then we'll add the spinach, and then we will keep on moving right along here. And this flavor contrast is really nice too. Sometimes we get stuck in our old, maybe we don't want to try something, oranges in this salad, but it really goes nicely. It really helps, reduce what they call food fatigue when you get tired of things. So again, take out that middle membrane. Nobody wants to bite into that. So this dish it's just really about brightness, I think they all are. When you add citrus, there's only, and especially in our Brussels sprout recipe that we didn't get to, I'm just going to discard this membrane too. The Brussels sprout recipe that we're doing, it has shallots and lemon juice, and there's just something about that combination that makes it so bright and fresh. All these big membranes, nobody wants to bite into that. Okay. We're also going to be juicing our orange. So let's just see. Fennel still cooking along here. turn that up. I'm going to pull out our salmon and see how that looks. I'll bring it over so we could take a peek at that. Then we will juice our lemon and get our salad ready. So let me get that. And this looks really good. So I'm going to show you a few ways to check this. Move our stuff over here. We're getting a little bit crowded. So there's a couple ways. We can take the temperature and we could also plate with a fork. The thing about salmon is you don't want to overcook it. Okay. So what's nice to do is just take a fork and just press gently. And we could see, I could tell right now. So if you could see that, it's perfectly done. It does dry out quickly. So it's done. And I had that in a nice 400-degree oven. So this did get a little crispy on the top. And if we were to check this, we would just want to make sure that it's above 135. It's 138. So there we go. Perfect. And we'll just set that aside and we will plate up our salmon. I'll just take it off of here. You can hear my fennel cooking in the back. Make sure I'm not burning that. All right, and we're just going to take our salmon off of here. And there's the skin. The skin's nice and crispy. And this is also, if you don't like the skin, this is a good chance to take it off too, because it's probably going to slide right off of there. And again, I would probably just give this another little bit of lemon juice, but that looks wonderful right there. So we'll just go ahead and set this aside. And I'll bring my fennel over here to show you how that's coming along. And it's coming along nice. And we'll just give it another stir and we'll add our spinach. Yes. And you can see it's very soft and limp. So that's exactly what we're looking for. You see there are some brown spots here, but it's not black. We don't want to char it or caramelize it. We just want to get it soft. So that nice slow heat will definitely do that. Let's add our spinach. And we know all of this spinach is just going to cook down to nothing. But we're just going to put this in here for a little bit just to wilt it. It's a warm salad, so it's something a little bit different. Just add a little bit of salt. Get that back on the stove. I'm going to add the rest of our oil. Let that wilt. I am going to cover it to help it wilt, keep the temperature low. And then we will work on the rest of the ingredients for this, which we have another lemon. Let's just get that ready. And we have our juicer here. And let's get another little dish for that. All right, so we're going to juice on that just a little bit. All right, so after that wilts, we're going to add our lemon juice. I'm just going to give it another stir. And then we'll start working on our Brussels sprouts. So we'll just let that steam a little bit longer. We have our juice ready. I'll check on the chickpeas and then we'll get started on our Brussels sprouts because we have everything ready now for the rest of this fennel and spinach dish with the oranges. And the chickpeas look really good. So they're coming along nicely. And we say I say on the recipe somewhere between 30 minutes, 35 minutes. It could even probably go a little bit longer than that if you are not paying attention to the time. If that will work out for you. Let's check our spinach. Almost. Just keep turning it. I'll show you how this is coming. Again, we're not trying to saute this too hard. We just want it to be wilted. We're going to let it go just a little bit longer, not too much. So we just want to get this soft. It's not going to be cooked all the way like we typically cook spinach. So just one more minute. I'm just going to let it go one more minute. We're not going to do anything else just because I don't want it to get too far and then it'll not give us the result that we're looking for. So we have our lemon juice, we have our oranges, and we have our almonds, and we're ready to go to finish this one. All right. And we'll get our nice bowl for this. That's going to make it really colorful too. We have a nice colorful bowl, nice colorful dish. Let's pull this out. Beautiful. Okay, so we have a nice contrast, and what we want to do is just put a little bit of our lemon juice on here before we take it out. Make it very nice and bright. We'll stir it around really well. Yeah, this is going to be beautiful. And this is one too that you can eat it cold, but you're going to want to eat it warm. So let's just transfer it to our bowl. Little piece of fennel hiding there. Okay. Wow, this looks beautiful already. So let me show you what this looks like. Lemon juice bowl over. Okay, so here we have our beautiful wilted spinach with we have the fennel cooked really nicely. We just drizzled it with some lemon juice, and now we're going to add our oranges. This is definitely going to add a whole new flavor profile. And then we're just going to have some almonds on there. Oh, does this look good? Show up with this somewhere. I think everybody will be very happy. And we're also going to add just a little bit of salt, just a tiny bit, and a little bit of fresh cracked pepper. So there we go. I'm not even turning the pepper mill the whole way. So there's our second dish, a warm spinach, fennel, and citrus salad. So doesn't that look amazing? I can't wait to dig into this. All right, so we have that. We have our salmon. Chickpeas are still in the oven. It's time for Brussels sprouts. And I love these Brussels sprouts. If you've been with me for any length of time, you know my go-to is always roasted in the oven, 400 degrees with a little bit of olive oil and kosher salt. Today I'm going to do this a little bit differently, and I really like this side dish. We're going to shave them, and I like to do this because this is something that I wanted to show you. So before class, I trimmed all the Brussels sprouts. I washed them. I removed all the outer leaves. We'll see if there's any other outer leaves on here that are funny. And let's get our prep for this. So I could see right here that I missed some leaves, but we have 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts, olive oil, a shallot, garlic, more lemon, and a kosher salt and some crushed red pepper. So what I did was I took off the bottom. I tried to remove some of the bad leaves, and I could see I have a couple here. They just must have, sometimes when you're doing something and you're too close to it, you can't see. So remove any of those leaves that don't look nice. Now, what I could do right now is, let's just remove. And if we see any more along the way, we'll just do the same thing. We'll just discard that outer leaf. That's why when you get these home, you want to make sure you use them quickly. They're just going to go very bad. And right now everything is, groceries are very expensive and you don't want to, these are one of those vegetables. It can be higher priced depending on when you buy it. So you want to make sure that you get your use out of it. Okay, so let me tell you what I was just talking about there. We could do two things. I could take my good old cutting board and my chef's knife, which still has garlic on it. Let's get that off. My other prep knife here, hold on. Okay, so what we could do is I could get each Brussels sprout and put it on a flat edge and slice like this. Which isn't too hard, right? This isn't too bad. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a slice, something like that. All right, so I'm just going to set these in our next skillet here. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to use a mandolin. And a mandolin is, you could use it for many things. You could use it for French fries. There's all different varieties. I'm just going to try to make sure you could see mine. Okay, so let me take this off. This is what collects the food. This is the actual mandolin. They come in a variety of ways. Sometimes you'll see that they lay flat. It's more of a vertical, a horizontal setup. This is more of a vertical setup. And this one, I like this motto. It's completely dishwasher safe. It comes with a something to clean out this blade. This is a little guard on here. So if we lift this up, this removes this. This is extremely sharp in here. So this is nothing that you want to fool with. So we're going to let that guard down there. So that's firmly in place. And then we use this. I have to think about it when I put it in. We use this to keep applying pressure to the vegetables. This catches everything. So let's take it. Here we go. We're going to slide it in here. And there's a little, oh my gosh, like a wedge cut out here. So it sits nicely on this wedge. And on mine, there's some suction cups. Back here, oops, I should have showed you. Back here are two settings. One is for the actual size and one is for the shape. So again, remember what I told you I'm trying to go for? I'm trying to go for like a nice slice. So I have it, I could tell you which slice I have it. Oh, I can't see because it's so tiny, but I could write that down on the recipe so you have it. Excuse me, oops. So we're just gonna go ahead and put them in here. And it does save time. And I've got home from work before and I've made French fries really fast using, fresh potatoes. So, just scrubbing the potatoes and then towel drying them, leaving the skins on and putting them right in here. You could find, again, you will just play around with these two knobs to get the desired shape. But you can see this is exactly, and no hands. As long as I have one hand on here, as long as I have one hand on this and one hand on the guard, I'm safe. The minute you think that, oh, I'll just get that Brussels sprout out of there, you could get into some trouble really fast. And, just something I heard a long time ago when I was probably a teenager and was working somewhere. And somebody was, I think it was the first time I was being trained on a meat slicer or a buffalo chopper. And somebody said to me, this does not care if it's your hand or a hunk of meat, it's going to chop. So it cannot tell the difference. These machines are not human. So we have to treat them with respect. So again, they could do a nice job and give us a lot of shortcuts, but you have to use them properly. So I'm just going to take that out of here. And this is what's nice about this one. Everything gets collected in the trough. I'm going to go ahead and dump this in here. And of course, we're going to need some olive oil first. And I might not be able to use all my Brussels sprouts in this container. But they should sweat down and we might be okay. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and oops, I keep doing that. I'm gonna go ahead and add a couple more anyhow. And we'll see, because those are probably gonna cook down. Again, just hold that in there, up, down. And sometimes we have equipment like the food processor or something like that, and we're a little intimidated to use it. Maybe find, fortunately now there's a lot of wonderful videos out there. Maybe get together with a friend and see, hey, have you used your food processor yet? Or do you know how to do this? Just because they can be a little tricky at first. And, sometimes it's not always obvious how to use them safely, even with reading directions. They could, or, maybe you bought yours new and there's no directions. So, or I mean, I meant used, like from like a secondhand store or something like that. Because I know every time I go to the secondhand store, it is full of bread makers. So, and I'm sure those could be intimidating too if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and see if I have room in my pan. And I do. Don't let that go in there. And I will probably, I'll just do the rest of these and I'll do them after class separately and add them all just so I don't waste these. So again, just a nice alternative to roasting. And this really makes them go far too. I'll be eating this every day for lunch for a while. And this, I also use the mandolin. If you were with me when we made the kale and the Brussels sprout salad, when we sliced all those Brussels sprouts, it actually make your hand kind of tired. This is a really good shortcut for that too. So just a really fast way to get all those Brussels sprouts done and done uniformly too. So, which is always nice. So let's move. I'm going to cut the shallots and we'll get those sauteed in there as well. And I'm just going to turn them down really low. And a shallot right here, it's across like a little bit between an onion and a garlic, but it has such a wonderful profile. It's just the flavor is so unique. Every time we make salad dressings in class, I will take that opportunity to put a shallot in there. A lot of our chicken dishes are going to have, just numerous recipes. And if you smell it, it's just, I don't know how to, it's not as pungent as an onion and not as, not the same as garlic, but it's somewhere in between the two of them. And it just has its own unique flavor. So I think if you haven't tried them yet, and they're just so fun to work with too. And they don't need to be cooked very long. You just want to get the fragrance of them. So you don't want to brown them, just like garlic. It could get very bitter very fast. So I'm just doing a real quick dice on these. And I'm going to use the whole one since we have 2 pounds of Brussels sprouts. So I'm going to use the whole shallot. And I'm going to use a little bit of garlic too. And another thing that you could do, I just don't want to do it just because I'm just sticking to plant-based today. Before we do this, you could also render the fat from salt pork or bacon to add a different layer. I like to keep my vegetables, as pure as possible, but it's an option too. It does add a lot of flavor. Just going to add those right on top and then I'll get them all stirred in. And again, we're going to do a couple cloves of garlic here as well. And we could also do our little trick again. I'll adjust the camera so you could see. We just have our small cutting board now. Little bad piece of garlic on the, little bad side on that, but that's okay. And we don't want to bite into a big chunk of garlic in this recipe, so we're going to get it very small again. Cut that little bad piece off. Two bad pieces here. Now, I should have my paring knife with us. Okay, so again, just get that initial, get it small. You want to slice first, however you want to do it. You know, and there's nothing wrong with using a garlic press too. Those could be a wonderful time saver. There's so many different gadgets now for garlic. But I like to get it pretty small first. And then again, we'll add our, since we're gonna be adding salt for this. And the other thing that you could do for this flavor is you could also add chicken broth to this recipe as well. So just get it smashed. Okay, there we go. So got a nice little mash there. And I'm just going to give this a few turns. It's already starting to get soft, so I could probably even work in the rest of the Brussels sprouts that I had. And we're just going to let those cook down a little bit. You know, and it's good. You know, Brussels sprouts are one of the cruciferous vegetables along with broccoli and cauliflower. You know, they contain sulforaphane, you know, which is, you know, helps with detoxification. I'll leave that go a little bit longer. You know, rich in antioxidants, high in fiber. When we think about, you know, the foods that help keep us healthy, we always think about the cruciferous vegetables. So it's really good to incorporate those. So we have a lot of really good things going on. So I could hear them really sizzling in the back. This is another one too. We could add some toasted almonds to this or some regular almonds. It's really opens itself up to a lot of ideas and flavors. So again, you just want to get this till it's nice and soft. You don't want them mushy. You want them to have a good bite, like be a little al dente. Just let those go a little bit longer. There's a couple in there that still are a little bit harder. But this is an excellent side dish. And I will use this as a base as well to have a little bed of Brussels, and then maybe I put a salmon patty on there or a crab cake, or you know, even a I don't do it too often like a filet mignon, but typically I might do like a small piece of fish right on top of it. I think that's kind of fun to do, or you know, putting that, you know, using microgreens too. That's always a nice thing to do, or arugula. But this is another warm option that you could put down underneath your entree. Instead of, you know, sometimes we're looking for a lower carb alternative. You know, we have some good ones here today, like in the chickpea bake, but sometimes it's nice to have a less carby component to enhance the protein in your plate, on your plate. So they're exactly where we want them now. Nice and soft, just a couple of brown ones, not too crazy. We don't want to take this too far either because we don't want our garlic or our shallots to get burnt, you know, and get bitter. Okay, so we have everything in here, and then we're going to add our lemon. Get our trying to get my little zester out for you. We could do a few things here. We could do a little grated peel, and we could also do some zest.
So with our lemon, we could just do some of these things. I have my other one too, and you could just smell the oil coming out. Oh, it smells so good. The lemon oil. And then we could also do some of this. I don't know how much we'll get on here. This is really going to brighten this up. And it's getting all of this, we're getting all of this oil on here too, which is really nice. Okay, so we'll give those a stir. Then we'll add a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and some crushed red pepper. And again, we could add the almonds to the top too if we wanted, or we could stop it where it is. Let's just put those in our beautiful bowl here. But when you add those crushed red pepper flakes, it just makes it look pretty. It's a nice little contrast. Okay. So again, we could add a little bit of we could add Parmesan cheese to this. We could add, if we want to keep it vegan, we could add some nutritional yeast, or we could also add some more toasted almonds or walnuts or any kind of nut like that. Even pine nuts would be nice. But this is a nice dish. Let's put a little bit more red pepper flakes on top. There we go. So that looks nice. Oh, and it smells so good. The lemon is really coming off of there. So let's get our chickpea bake out of the oven so we could talk about that too, and look at all of our dishes together and talk about everything that we did today. I hope you're excited as I am. This looks really good. And I might put it back into the oven after class, just to reduce this a little bit more. And it might actually get soaked up in there too. But this is just such a beautiful dish. All those herbs in there. And it smells wonderful. And it's all because of those caramelized onions. And whenever we are happy with the amount of liquid that's out of here, then we're going to go ahead and just give it a little parsley garnish too. So very nice. Love those. Okay. So, and the other thing that I forgot to mention too, why shave our Brussels sprouts? Well, it makes cooking time a little bit faster. It softens the texture and they can be a little bit less bitter. And if you have anybody that is averse to Brussels sprouts, sometimes they are one of the number one things that I get when I'm doing interviews with people on their intake. Brussels sprouts is probably the most disliked vegetable, and I don't know why. I think they're wonderful, but maybe if they're shaved and they're sliced like this, they're a little bit less intimidating or whatever, less offensive. I'm not sure what people don't like about them. So let's get all of our dishes. I'm going to go grab the salmon and our wilted spinach. Oh, this just looks so good. It's so light, and it's the kind of meal too. And I always tell my clients, we all have those meals that when you eat them, you feel better afterwards. You don't feel heavy and weighed down and like you need to take a nap. You feel more like, oh, I feel good about myself, and I feel like I'm working towards my goals, or even if you're not working on any specific nutrition goals, I just feel good. I just feel plain good for having some of these things. So let's just look at them all one more time. We have the chickpea bake, beautiful, good carbs in there, high in fiber, it pairs nicely with the salmon, high in fiber, good for blood sugar, low GI, low glycemic index. We have our salmon, which is, the protein high in omega 3s, good quality protein. It's easy to digest. We have our Brussels sprouts, also high in fiber. Also have those compounds that the cruciferous vegetables do. And then we have our nice bright spinach and citrus. I mean, this is just, it's beautiful. And I just can't wait to taste, because we're going to get that licorice flavor. Let me fix the camera. We're going to get that licorice flavor from the fennel, and then the brightness of the lemon, and then the crunch of the almonds and the softness of the spinach. It's just going to be a really nice treat. And I have some baguette, and I should have brought that over to show you how to serve it with some baguette, the chickpeas and everything. So I hope you try some of these. I hope you like them and make them your own. They're all available on my website, laurazervis.com. And I will also have the nutrition information in there as well, so you could plan accordingly to see if it fits in with your nutrition goals. But definitely, they're part of the Mediterranean diet. They're all anti-inflammatory, and I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks a lot and have a wonderful day.